What if I told you that there is a way for you to quite literally stand in the wide open within the line of sight of your opponents and almost always get out alive, with at the very least getting one player in this game? Now, imagine I told you there was a way for you to not only stand in the open and get one, but possibly get all of them, up to 5 players. What if I told you this was something you could abuse over and over again throughout the entire game to quite literally win yourself each game? This is very possible, and in today's video, I will show you some of the best off angles. To put it very simply, an off angle is any angle on the map that the opponents will not expect you to be at. It really is that simple. Let's take a look at this view of the map from the top. Every single angle highlighted that isn't a common angle could all be considered off angles. Granted, the enemy doesn't expect you to be there. But you have to understand that standing literally anywhere, even in the wide open, could be considered an off angle if the enemy does not expect you to play there. So take a look at this example. You see that I am essentially standing what would be considered the wide open, and yet the opponents do not clear me, since, well, they are not expecting me to be there. Now, there is a common misconception that you can only play in off angles if you are on a duelist or a character that allows you to escape after you get 1 or 2. It's this idea that with any other agent, it would be nearly impossible to escape. But this is actually not true. The reality is, if you are a good enough player, regardless of the agent you are on, your movement and your agent's util usage, timed right, can actually allow you to escape from off angles as you please. However, this again comes with a lot of practice and skill. If you are in a lower elo, you should not expect to find yourself pulling these off right away. Again, it takes time. This technique and these positionings that I will show you later in this video could actually help you rank up very fast. Here are a couple of examples. In this example, I'm playing an off angle on Lotus B side, one that usually allows me to get a lot of taps on the heads of opponents and get out with Reyna, but this time, I will show you how I essentially do the same thing with Breach. Now that you understand the concept of off angles and how to use your agent's utilities to get out, let me show you some of the best off angles for every good map in this game. Alright, so the first off angle would be right here. Now I know this off angle is a very common one. You've probably seen this in pro play and all sorts of places, but I want to clarify a couple of things because there seems to be a bit of misconceptions on when you want to position here. Now a lot of times what will happen is you'll see some players, they'll try to, flash this and get here when the barrier drops, but this just isn't the play. I'd say 99% of the time, going in this off angle right as the game begins is not the move just because it's expected. And even if you do it once, it'll be expected. Especially in higher elos. If you are in a lower elo, this may actually be viable. Maybe even more than once. I mean, those guys really don't predict things like that. So I would recommend this off angle, but when? The question when is where this really applies. You guys have to understand that this off angle, again, not very viable at the start of the round. However, if, let's say, for example, the enemies are pushing B side, and let's say your team that is on B side is actually able to stop the aggression happening there, and they decide to start rotating back. The moment your team calls that they're rotating back, if you were playing, let's say, somewhere here, and you realize, oh, okay, they're rotating back, let me just reposition right here. As you guys can see, this off angle 10 times better than anywhere else you could play here, and a lot of the time when they are rotating, they will not expect you to be there. In fact, 99% of the time, they're more so concerned about people on side, and they'll just start walking here. The moment they walk here with their gun facing this way, from this angle, you'll notice it's a very free kill. And I'll even show some demonstrations possibly. Alright, so moving on to the next part of this video, let me go ahead and show you guys a nice little off angle on B side on split. It would be right here. Now this angle, again, a lot of people do know about it in higher elos, so if you are in a higher elo, it may not be as valuable as you think. However, anybody in an elo like plat and below, you will find that this angle is extremely useful. And a lot of the times they'll walk right past you, either looking at heaven, or they'll get to this part right here, where they'll be focused on people here. And again, you have a very clean line of sight on them, and you can just tap their head and then get out. So another off angle that I would highly recommend is a lot of the times if you position yourself kind of like this. Now this one is a very high rank off angle. If you're in the lower elos, this might be something that you will struggle with the first couple times, but to kind of give you a perspective of what this looks like from the enemy POV, what happens is the enemy would come here, they might run here, try to clear this, then they'll come here, they'll clear this. And then a lot of the times their crosshair placement is kind of aiming for this, right? They're looking here, they're looking here, they're looking here, they're looking here, whatever. The idea here is you are kind of standing in a very off angle, aligned like this, but not to where they can really see you. So if you're standing here, kind of like this, so you see where that ping is. When the players are coming around here, I promise you, majority of players are not clearing like this. The majority of players, what they'll do is they'll clear like this. I mean, if it's a higher elo, first of all. If it's a higher elo, they'll either clear like this, or they'll clear like this. Or in lower elos, a lot of times they'll just be running out like this, looking here. If you are skilled here with the Reyna or Jet, either one, you can easily just kind of stay here. Once you hear them coming, you could peek, get one, and just dismiss out. I've done this multiple times, and I mean, this is one of those off angles that almost always works, and you could actually abuse it once you learn and master it. It's a very hard skill to learn and master, but the moment you do, this actually works a lot more times than you'd realize, because what happens is although enemy players start to predict you being there, it's such a good angle which just kind of throws their placement off. If they're worried about peeking you and you're just kind of peeking to them, you're still going to get the first kill, right? You just tap their head and get out. Now another really good off angle to play on defense and a really good position to position yourself is behind this box. Now I can't stress enough how many times I've gotten so many kills from behind this box. Now you have to understand that getting kills from behind this box, it really genuinely all comes down to your understanding of when to peek. Okay, now a lot of times, let me show you guys the pathing enemy players will take onto a side. So what happens is, let's say they've cleared heaven, they've cleared this heaven, they've cleared screens, they've smoked it, they smoked this, whatever. They know no one's here. What will happen is, they might have a Reyna flash in, they might have some players going here, and a lot of times in lower elo, what happens is they'll just start running onto site looking like this. And, maybe in like a little bit higher elo, they might be looking like this, but they'll still make noise, right? And the idea here is you are just going to stay here and go all the way back. The reason you want to position yourself all the way back is because it just gives you a better angle on the peak, especially because what's going to happen is a lot of times if they're focused here, their crosshair placement is kind of just like more so focused on someone peeking from close, right? And it's a way easier kill versus if you are far away, you kind of have the better line of sight here. And what happens is, even if they are holding you, the fact that they have to hold W to scale from here to here will automatically put you at the advantage, since all you have to do is press A or D to peek into them, tap their head, and get out. Alright, so another really good off angle that I highly recommend is playing here. Now this kind of off angle, it really varies. Now the reason why it varies is because you have to understand that enemies in every single elo play differently. The higher elos, they'll most likely clear this here, okay? And then they'll proceed to clear other things, right? In highest of highest elo, they'll have some people watching over here. If they broke the trips and whatnot, they might flash and then clear here, clear this and then clear this, whatever. They'll have a way to make sure that they're still picking into anybody here, right? So in higher elo, what works better is to kind of wait behind this box, okay, and time the peak well. You know, a lot of times it's not hard to tell when your enemies are about to rush and when they're going to get into sight, especially if you have a player here or positioned here jump spotting, you know, and then you simply peek off of a timing and you're almost always going to get one if you time it properly. However, if you are in a lower elo, you really don't have to worry as much about when to peek. You can kind of just sit here, you know, move side to side and just kind of hold up here. The reason it's considered an off angle in lower elo is because 99% of the time they are not going to be worried about clearing this. They're just going to clear here if anything, and they'll have to make the adjustment. And by the time they make that adjustment, again, you tap their head and get out. Alright, so I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Originally, I was thinking of making this an entire series where I go through every single map in one video. However, I decided why not leave it up to you guys, because this video is already gonna be long enough with everything I've covered on Split alone. So I've decided if you guys want to see new maps, make sure to hit that subscribe button and comment down below what map you would like to see next. Until next time guys, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day and take care.